Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Freeman Focus podcast. I'm your host, Mariano. Before we get started, I want to give a quick shout out to our season one sponsor, What the Snark in Wild Rose, Wisconsin. They specialize in custom apparel, hats, hoodies, decals, and branded gear, all designed and produced locally. Then her team do an incredible job and working with businesses and organizations throughout the area, and their support helps make this podcast possible. This is season one, episode 10, In the Beginning, part two with John Wenninger. All right, John. So let's jump right back into it. I believe the last time we were on, we had just discussed you opening up the shop. This is around 2001 ballpark area. You had said that you had Emily at that around that time. So I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's get back into it here. So 2001, that was a real busy year for me. I had my business for 5 years at that point, and I was able to build a new building at that time. We had Emily, and just to go back a little bit here, I ended up getting hooked up with a banker, Jeff Swatell out of Neshkoro. And I'll tell you what, that guy, he made all the difference in the world, because he was a guy you could tell him your plans and show him your plans, and he would actually help you make it, figure it out and get it done. And because of him, I was able to, put up a new building and get into the things I wanted. As my business progressed, I needed a guy like that. I needed a guy that could help me and figure out what I didn't know. Because one thing in business, when you think you know it all, you don't. I'll say that a million times, because you
Right.
always get straightened out. So in '01, so we put up the new building, and I actually went to, I had 5 technicians in 2001. And that's kind of where I went from, I'd always say, I did this and I did that, but there's no more it's we, because now I have a team. I have 5 people working for me at this point, and what a hell of a crew they were. I mean, out of them 5, I believe at that time, 3 of them went on to running their own businesses
Wow.
further down the road. And then there was more after that, but we'll get to that as we go. But I mean, you kind of, they kind of, I don't blame them, right? They see what they want, the same thing. Everybody wants the same thing.
Right.
They want success. So another thing I picked up in '01 is I started, I started my towing company. So it was always Wenninger Auto Repair, but then I added towing to it. And I ended up I always had a flatbed, but I bought a flatbed, and then I bought a wrecker. And towing kind of started from there. But that's when I had them, the towing, at that point, I did all the towing myself. And that's where night and day you just ran, right? I mean, when Emily was born, until she was like 10, 11 years old, I mean, I worked basically around the clock, and then
Was it
this,
24-hour towing back then?
oh yeah,
Were you doing
uh,
24-hour towing then?
24-hour towing on the sheriff's, on sheriff's calls. And I like towing. I love to figure it out. I like to, it's like a puzzle, right? You
Right.
just got to revert everything. Whatever just happened, you got to do it all backwards. And I was just really good at it. I enjoy it, and I could think on my feet, pretty quick that way. And then, so between that and '05, everything kind of stayed the same. And then we had our son, Jake. Now, Jake, he was a little different. When he was 5 days old, he would eat, and then he would vomit really hard. So we ended up taking him to the emergency room in Appleton, and I think it was malrotation of the intestines. So his intestines then hooked to the side, and they twisted in a knot. So when he would eat, it couldn't go nowhere. So he would just vomit. He was 5 days old. So when we got up there to Appleton, they immediately put him on a helicopter and flew him down to Milwaukee, the Children's Hospital. So he got flown down there. We drove down there, and before we got there, they had him in surgery. This kid's 5 days old. He was a pretty good sized baby, which was you go down, Children's Hospital, everybody's tiny, right? 2, 3
Right.
pounders. I mean,
Premature.
Jake looks like he looks like a sumo wrestler compared to these little kids. So they said that was good, but they were able to get the surgery fast enough where he didn't lose any intestines. They got it straightened
Oh,
out,
that's awesome.
rehooked it back up, but Don was down there. I think he was in the hospital for 10 days that time, down in Children's Hospital before he could go home. And same thing with my family. My sisters all lived down by Richfield and Germantown. And so when she was down there, they would come and visit and bring stuff and, relieve her for a while so she could go do stuff. So, I mean, family is pretty important that way. I mean, they're always backing you up. And then we got Jake home, and, knock on wood, everything turned out just fine. But tell you, a little bit of a scare there, right? I mean, you get into that deal, and you don't know what's going on. We didn't know. We knew something was wrong, but we didn't know what. And, because they acted quick on it, luckily everything turned out fine. and
Yeah,
there was no
God is
problems.
definitely good.
Well, I'll tell you, somebody was looking out on that deal, for sure. Yeah. So then, so as I got into towing, we did the light and the medium duty, that. But then, in I think it was '07, I bought my first heavy wrecker, semi tow truck, and I got a story to go with this. I got a CDL. I had that from the town of Richfield when I worked down there, but never drove semi, never drove over the road. I mean, it was always dump trucks, plow trucks, stuff like that. So we go to, I ended up told Don there's this truck in Texas I want to look at. So we took a ride down there and I called my buddy Jeff and I said, Jeff, I'm going to look at a tow truck, I want to make sure I'm all set up. He says, you're set up. Just let me know what you need. And, if you decide to buy it, you're good to go. So we go down to Texas and Jake was only a couple years old. Emily's probably, everybody was little. Emily was probably at that time 4 or 5 years old. And so we get down there to Texas and I ended up buying this truck. And I'm talking to the guy and it's got a 10 speed in it. I never drove a 10 speed and I never, I'm pretty young at this, at this age and never just something new to get in. So I hook up this, we took our Suburban down there and I hooked that to the back of I ended up buying, I hooked that to the back of the heavy wrecker and we started coming home and we got out of Texas and we got into the port of Oklahoma. Had a scale was open. Never been through a scale. I got a logbook and it was atrocious. I didn't even know how to fill out a logbook. So we go, the guy was nice. He goes, I'm just going to leave my license plates on there until you get to Wisconsin. Then you can register it. I said, oh, sounds good. You buy a car, you drive it home and then, then you register, right? So we're driving and we get to the port and we pull in and I had a green arrow and that means go, right?
Yeah.
I didn't, I didn't, I didn't know that. I stop. I'm waiting for him to weigh me, right? Like on a movie, pull ahead driver, no, I shouldn't have never stopped. And I stopped. And the guy says, why don't you pull that thing around back and bring in all the paperwork you got? I thought, oh no, here we go.
Oh,
So I got the two kids in the sleeper, Dawn's in there. And so we pull around back and I go in and then I'm talking to the state patrol and he says, can I see your logbook? And I showed it to him and he goes, oh my God, this is horrible. I said, well, I explained the whole deal that I just bought the truck and I'm heading back to Wisconsin. He says, and he goes to me, he said, well, are them your license plates on there? He said, no. I said, them are the guy. I didn't lie to him. I said, them are the guy that I bought it from. He said, just keep them on there until you get home. He goes, he says, so they're not your plates, right? I said, nope, they're not. He says, so why do you think you can use them? I said, well, it sounded good. I said, I don't know. It's like buying anything, we buy it in Wisconsin, you drive it home. And he looks at everything. He's looking at the paperwork. He says, Mr. Wenninger, he says, this is going to cost you a lot of money. And I looked at him and I said, sir, I said, just like every lesson in life, it usually does. I said, I don't know. I'm not, I'm not lying to you. I told him the truth, right? He
right.
goes, and he's looking at everything and he actually showed me how to fill out a logbook properly. He
There you go.
walked me through, here's how you do this. I said, he says, you got $10 cash on you? And I thought, oh my, donut money, right? I thought, yeah, I got $10. And I gave him the $10 and he came back with a piece of paper with a trip permit that gets me from Oklahoma to my next state. And basically when you buy a heavy vehicle now, knowing that now is you got to stop in every state and get a trip permit for the next state. And you can get them at the truck stops. Basically you're buying like a little temporary license to get you
Right.
to the next spot. So he gave me a trip permit and he could have made me sit there for 10 hours when my logbook was so bad. And he did, and he said, well, just, when you get to the next state, get your trip permits figured out and then, go from there and you'll be okay to get home. And, super nice guy, but I mean, at the end of the day, I didn't lie to him. It was going to be what it was going to be, right?
Right.
But he actually taught me a lot, that guy. So I got to the next state line and we got the trip permits we needed and away we went. And we made it all the way back to Wisconsin with no problems. But I'll tell you what, that was a little scary, you don't know what's
Right.
going to happen. And then, so after that, I bought more tow trucks, like car haulers, tow trucks, but most of them I bought from out of state. So I bought a lot of my equipment out of California
Okay.
just because it was rust free. I'd
Right.
go
It's
out there,
clean.
man. I went out there and I bought a heavy wrecker once, and that was a while. That was probably just right after this. I bought a heavy wrecker out in California in Barstow. And when I went out there, the guy said, well, you buy this heavy wrecker, I'll throw this one in free. Another wrecker, he said, it runs, but it doesn't run right. And he said, you can have it. Well, if somebody tells me I could have a wrecker, right? So I hooked that up and yeah, right through downtown Vegas, we went with that mess. Went through Utah and we ended up in a blinding snowstorm. Yeah, I mean, Matt Schubert and I. he went with me. We flew down and we drove it back, and we hit the snowflakes were the size of the windshield, right? You couldn't see anything, so we made it through that, and every time we'd switch drivers, and I don't know if it was just his luck, we would switch and the roads were perfect. I would get it back, I ended up with snow, ice, and freezing fog on that trip back, and, he 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 lucked out on every bit of that. But we made it back with, and you're buying stuff, right? You're 21 hours, you're 2,100 miles away from Wisconsin, and you're buying this stuff and you don't know anything about it. You just
Right.
hope for the best, right?
Right. You're
Throw
winging
throw a
it pretty
pack
much.
yeah, throw a pack of tools in it and go. And I think it was about 15 or 16. Dawn and I were in Vegas celebrating our anniversary for we got married out there. So we're out there and I said, "Hey, I found two flatbeds in California. Let's just drive them home." And so we went and ended up buying them. And I'll tell you what, I give her a lot of credit because the truck I gave her to drive, it was a newer one. And then we're driving out of California, and I called her. I said, "Why are you doing like 40 miles an hour on the expressway?" She goes, "Well, I can't steer." I said, "What do you mean you can't steer?" It's real sloppy. It's bad. And she's getting panic attacks going over these bridges. I said, "Well, pull over and let me look." So I pulled over and I looked. Well, before I got there, the guy said he took it to the dealer and he had the steering gearbox adjusted, and they didn't tighten down the jam nut. So the set screw backed out, and she literally had a half a turn steering back and forth. I mean, a half a turn. So we stopped, and I had enough tools that I readjusted it, tightened it down, and I took that truck and she took the other one. But the one truck we had, a top speed was 60 miles an hour. So we drove from California back to Watoma at 60 miles an hour. That was
Wow.
that was we did it in 3 days, but it was 3 long days, I can tell you that. And I give her a lot of credit for doing it, right? I mean, how many wives are gonna jump in a rollback and drive it? Once again, they both made it. Unbelievable. Half the stuff doesn't, not good at all, but it made it. So that was pretty
Another blessing.
exciting. Yeah, I don't think she's gonna do it again, but she did do it once, and we got them back. But yeah, we bought, I don't even, I must have been, I bet you it was 5 or 6 trucks I bought out of California. And it was just worth it not having to deal with the rust in Wisconsin. So
Hey,
that turned out,
with all those people losing their CDLs because they're foreigners, there's probably a lot of trucks for sale right now.
I think most of them people work for companies, right?
Right.
You know,
Yeah, for
they're
sure. They're
probably
not
not
owner
owner
operators
operators.
for sure. They're not owner
No,
operators. There's no way they
no.
can just come into America and own a nice brand new Peterbilt or yeah, there's no way. For sure.
Exactly. I think they work for companies but that is honestly at some point that's gonna create a shortage here
Right.
because you got to go through that 3-week class to get a CDL now. How many people want to do that anymore? Or you got to spend $4,000 to find out if you might or might not like it, right? And are you going to spend 4 grand to find out you absolutely hate it? You know what I
Right.
mean? So I mean, it's going to get hard. I probably had in the towing and transport, I probably got not exactly 8 to 10 people that I had got their CDLs for them. We did the road test together. We trained them, showed them and got their CDLs. Well, you can't do that no more. Now you got to have it, right? Or
Right.
you have to go to like Fox Valley Tech, or you got
Yep.
to go to
Some
some kind of
school.
a school. Yeah, yeah. But I think some of them drivers, I think that like you're talking about, I don't think they went to school. I think during COVID, a lot of that was just
They
handed
got
out, right?
passed. Yeah. 'Cause they
Yeah,
don't
they
even
just
speak English. I've
no.
interacted with one with Chuck one time when I was on call the last time I
Hmm.
worked for you, and the guy didn't speak a lick. I think he was Albanian. I couldn't even understand what he was saying. I had to, like, try to, like, decipher it. It was another
Right.
language. I thought it was like a Spanish type, but yeah, it was like some foreign Albanian or something.
And at the end of the day, like I said, I'm sure if they did it right, we could definitely use the drivers. There's no doubt about that. But
Yeah,
you just got to wonder if they're not on the up and up, like these trucking companies, how bad are they cutthroating them on pay to get them
right.
a job, right? It's kind of a double edged sword, right? Because then your owner operators and your guys that are good drivers
You're
that
losing the good
thrive.
ones.
Well, yeah, because they can't compete with the pay, right?
Right,
They if this guy's doing it for 20 cents a mile and you should be getting 40 cents a mile, how does that work?
right.
So that's a whole nother deal too with truckers. But at any rate, so I got my heavies, I got my tow trucks, and at that time I was probably up to about, I'm just looking here. I think I had 7 or 8 trucks back then. And for Watoma, that's a lot of trucks. Now they weren't all new, no, by no stretch of the imagination, but they always worked, they always ran, they always got the job done, no matter what.
It's all
You
about
know, for
operation
sure.
and function.
Yes, yes,
Gets the
yes.
job done.
Yep. So then, shortly after that, you remember the covered wagon I built? So in 2007, it was one of them deals. I wanted something for the parades. Dawn and I had an old Suburban chassis, 69 Suburban chassis at home. And I told Dawn, and that was right when, remember, the internet was just coming out back then.
Yeah.
And I told Dawn, I said, I want to build a 4-wheel drive Conestoga wagon. And she said, for what? I said, well, parades, whatever I want to do with it. So I said, go on the internet and get me a picture of a Conestoga wagon. So she prints off a picture of a Conestoga wagon. That's all you could find back then, right? It was '07. And I taped it up in my toolbox at home. I got a shop at home also. I taped it up on my toolbox, and both her and we built that wagon in 2 weeks from start to finish. The canopy, the interior,
How it
the
is
chassis.
now? You guys did that together as a project?
Yeah, me and her
I
did
didn't
that
know that
together.
she helped you with that. That's pretty cool.
2 weeks we did that in. First there was no rush, but then I think it was the 4th of July was coming up. And so then in 2 weeks I said, well, now the game's on. So I'd work until 6, 7 at night. Then I'd go home and work on that till 1, 2 in the morning. And I'd come back but that's fun work, right? I mean, it was figuring it all out. And yeah, my niece actually took a picture. I couldn't remember when we built it, but it was in 2007 because it was dated on the picture.
Nice.
And I'll tell you what, that wagon has been in more weddings, and it's been in more. I mean, we go to events and just haul people. We used to haul people around, like, you know what I mean, from one area of a parking lot to a venue, and
Right.
we did that for a lot of years. Back when I used to mud race in Burnhamwood, did that a little bit too, and I got to know the people up there real well, and one of the guys got married up there, so we're at the Weston Lanes up there, and that's where the wedding was. But I don't know, maybe a half mile down the road was a church, so we were down there, and I got the whole wedding crew on this wagon. They're all racers. So I was at the church, and somebody always says, light it up, and so I slid on that, and that thing would make smoky burnout so good. And, uh, I see the smoke started settling, and here the priest is running after me, shaking his fist, running behind the wagon. And I said to him, yes, yeah, I said to him, guys, I said, I think we gotta go. I mean, we got out on the main drag, and I just stood on it and we got out of there.
You don't have his blessing anymore.
I think I lost it on that one,
Yeah.
but no, but I mean, that wagon is, we've met a lot of people because of that wagon, a lot of different
Nice.
venues. We met people, and all good people, real good. So no, and we still have it. Honestly, everything I've ever built, I have all of it yet. I just, the memories
One
are
of
worth,
one, right? How could you get rid of it? It's one of one.
yeah, one of
Right.
one. And the memories to me it's worth more than money, right? When I can go in the garage and I see it, and if I want to take it for a ride, we used to take all the kids who come up for Thanksgiving, and we'd load them all in there and take them to Dairy Queen and Watoma to get ice cream cones. That's something. Well, they're going to remember that, right?
Right.
I mean, they're going to remember that forever. We used to take it to, actually, we haven't done it in years now, but years ago, remember Bladers used to have Tuesday night burgers?
Okay. So
That,
I haven't been around. I wasn't around at
okay,
that time.
but they had dollar burgers on Tuesdays, burger and fries. I think it was every Tuesday, we would load that wagon up full of people from the community, and I would drive it from my house to Bladers, which is got to be what, 12, 13 miles.
Yeah.
We'd go down B through Richford, cut across on JJ or one of them back roads, or I. But we used to do that all the time, and it was just fun, right? It was just we were gone an hour and a half. It was just something fun to do. Is all it was. So, I mean, that wagon got a lot of miles on it. I mean, in its years. I probably should use it a little more. Brian probably uses it more than I do now. He takes it down for, in October, he takes it down by his parents. They got like a big subdivision. They do like Halloween, like where they
Okay.
go around, everybody has kind of like floats, right? And they
Right.
go from house to house and they drive around and visit. And the last couple of years, he asked if he could take the wagon. I told him, sure. I'd sooner have somebody, it's good to run it, right?
Yeah.
Get it
Needs
out.
needs to get ran every year, no matter what.
Yeah, run it for 3, 4 hours, get some new gas in it, and he always takes care of it, and he knows what to do. So that works out works out well. So no, I like the
We're
wagon.
experiencing a little bit of a lag here,
Um,
John. Give it a second.
Back before the UTVs were around, I actually took a Beetle, made it 4-wheel drive, and then actually I got it from my buddy Danny Young. It was a 4-wheel drive Toyota, and I on a Beetle on a Toyota chassis. But then I took the Toyota parts out of it, and then I put a supercharged 3800 in there out of a Buick Park Avenue.
Yeah.
And I've had that thing out the Colorado trail. I mean, back before, like the Razors and stuff, that didn't exist back then. So we'd take them all over the United States trail riding, and
It's pretty
it
cool.
always made it back. And I still have that too. Like I said, I think I have everything I've ever built.
Them old 3.8 superchargers, they were like a solid little power plant. Like, I think a lot of people underestimate how much power those 3.8s
Oh,
put
they
to
were just under
to the
3 they were
wheels.
just a tickle under 300 horse. I mean, that thing had power for the weight of that vehicle. I mean, it
Right.
worked good. I mean, we'd be in Colorado, and you'd be looking off the edge of, cliffs, and Dawn would just be hanging on, and you're in this rackety old Beetle, but you won't forget them trips, right?
Right.
That you
Absolutely.
know, just more memories, that's for sure. I just gotta
That's
look
awesome.
here. So where are we at here? I gotta look here.
You were kind of bouncing a couple references in that last one, so the
Yeah.
dates. Yeah.
Yep, yep. So we had the Wigan. So then, okay, now the
Oh
next, the
07.
next, yep, the next part about, okay, here was the next lesson I learned in business, and I think in my business, I think a lot of people learn this lesson is so back in probably '01 up until 2011, 12, something like that, 13, 14 in there. The problem I had is I tried to help everybody, right? Somebody come in, you'd come in and say, "John, I got this problem and but I can't pay you till next week." So I would fix your car and not get paid next week. And and I probably shouldn't have did that because when somebody owes you money, they don't come back and then they just go to a different shop, right? And they'll exert every option they can in town and they'll go out of town. But I mean, I felt bad for people because when they broke down, it's unexpected. They didn't have the money for it.
Right.
But what I always say is I could work myself broke. So basically, what that means is so I go and let's just say I put a set of tires in your car for $300 back then or 400 whatever it was, and you're gonna pay me in 2 weeks or a week, and then you never show up, and then the guy behind you needs a brake line, and the guy behind him, you know what I'm saying, right?
Right.
All of
Absolutely.
all of a sudden all of a sudden, I'm a finance company. Dawn's almost her full-time job was sending bills out. But the
Right.
the problem I ran into with that is I wouldn't have enough money to cover payroll because I still gotta pay my parts, I gotta pay my tires, I gotta pay for everything, right? And if you're financing all these people or financing people, there's no money to pay your bills. So I mean, we get the payroll and if we're low, Dawn would say, "We need more money," and there was the whole time I was in business, never once did my employees not get paid, no matter what. I mean, Dawn and we probably went weeks without getting paid. But as far as my employees, if they worked for me, they got paid no matter what. If she said, we're short this, and I would just put my boots on in the morning and I'd come home with it at the end of the day, one way or the other, whatever it took to do it. And then as we went on, and that's what I told her, I said, we're working ourselves broke because we're busy, but you had to work hard enough to get enough cash flow to cover the people that didn't pay you, right?
Right.
So it was you were always doing you were always trying to catch up, and then finally, as time went on, we just decided that this ain't gonna work, right? I mean, we've tried it, and if the people would have did what they said they were gonna do, it would have been fine. But that wasn't the case. I mean, if you in the last 25, 26 years, I guarantee you I probably out close to 70, $80,000 that people never pay me back.
I was gonna
And
guess around 100K just because it
yeah,
just
you're probably not far off. I mean, it's and it doesn't pay. I mean, I always call it chasing paper, right? Because you're always trying to get that note, and some you eventually you get some to pay, but the majority it wasn't worth the fight, right? I mean, it wasn't worth
right.
the legal battle, or you know what I mean. And we did a couple of them, and then you get $5 a week for 5 years, you know what I mean. It just
Right.
wasn't worth the effort and the money. So I mean that's one critical mistake that I had made was just being, everybody has a story, right? A sad story, and you try to help and you want to help and should have never went down that road because I probably lost a lot of back in the day. I probably lost a lot of good customers because once they owed me money, they weren't going to show back around, right? I
Right.
mean, if they showed up, I mean, I'm going to tell them, "Well, I'm sorry, I can't work on your car," until you pay me this last bill. And then it starts, right? And then they pay that bill. And then now the next thing you got to finance this next bill. And it just, and honestly, in today's world, their words don't matter like they used to, right?
Right.
I mean, I'd have some elderly couples that a third would come in years ago and I knew they couldn't afford, but on the third, I guarantee you that check was in my hand, right? Some people
Right.
you could trust 100%, but all the other ones that would just tell you they were going to do it, well, never did, right? So unfortunately, that was a hard lesson I learned. But I think a lot of auto repair businesses, I think people think that people can, auto repair business, they, for whatever reason, you go to the grocery store, right? If you bought a gallon of milk and a pound of hamburger and gave them $3 and you owed them 22, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
They're
You
going to
can't
pay
go
the
home
rest.
and feed your family if you don't have
Well,
enough money to buy the food.
no, but the thing is, and they're going to pay you the rest in 2 weeks. Well, you need to eat next week too, right? I mean, it's going to never. And then how long before the store's not there anymore? You know what I mean? It just you can't give out the credit, and I learned that the hard way. Yeah, I really did. But at any rate, I made it through that now, and we don't do that unless we just don't really do that at all anymore. So
It's totally understandable. And in that situation, you're in a position where you have a job that helps people. You help repair people's vehicles and get them back on the road, but you can't help them in the financial regard. Like they have to hold up on their end of it. It's part of their obligation. Your obligation is to complete the repair. You've done that, right? You have to
yep.
collect for that.
And that's a
Understandable.
slippery slope. Once you start that, it's a slippery slope, right? Because now that you owe for all this stuff, you need to turn over so much work to get the cash flow to cover it.
Right.
You got to be able to
Just to
cover
get
every.
back at nominal, just to get back at zero again.
Yes, you got to have the cash flow.
Doesn't even
You
get you
got
ahead. That
payroll,
just puts
you
you
got
back into where you were.
sales tax, payroll, building pay. You know what I mean? It's all insurance. It's all got to come out. So, anyways, I learned that lesson the hard way, but it is what it is. I mean, I'm still fortunate to be here, and I made it. Weathered through it. So I guess that's the best part about it is I learned a lesson. So that maybe
Very good
somebody else will
business.
watch.
Very, very good business lesson. It's a good
Well,
message.
maybe somebody else will watch us, and I try to learn from other people's mistakes, right? Well, back when I got into towing in them years, I don't know if I mentioned this last time or not, but when I pick people up, I mean, we'd have conversations for hours, and I try to pick their brain apart and find out. Try not to do what they did, right?
Right.
If they're smarter than I am on something, take their advice. Don't think you can reinvent the wheel on some of it. And
Right.
I got a lot of good advice from people that I had taken, and a couple hour rides back to Milwaukee or Madison or wherever I went. I learned a lot from them, from people. So I always just listen. I think we talked about that last time a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I've been
all
privileged
right.
to meet some really nice people working as a tow truck operator for you as well. I have friends to this day that I met because I picked them up, and that's the
Really?
reason why. So, yep.
No.
Some younger guys, but still, thought it was cool.
And if
So
at the end of the day, if you need a tow truck, something's wrong, right? You're in trouble. Something's happened. So, I mean, all, you just be nice, get them where they got to go, right? I mean, that's the main thing. They already have enough problems. They don't need any more. And that's what I try to do. And too, if we tow somebody in and say they got a flat tire, no tire, we'll take them back to the shop. I don't care if it's a Sunday, and we'll see if we can't find them a tire to get them on the road or whatever it needs, right? If it's something in our power to get them going on the road the same day, we will, to try to help them out,
the
because
best
I
story I
wouldn't want to
have
be in that flat.
The
What's
best
that?
story I have about that is right around Thanksgiving, and I wanna say this was, like, 2003 potentially. There was a Honda at the trailer court that had a no start issue, and it wasn't a battery issue, it was, ignition switch. It was something with, the key fob in the ignition, and it was a security thing,
Okay.
immobilizer. That's what it
Hmm.
was. And,
Yep.
they were Hispanic, they didn't speak a lick of English. They were from Illinois, and their kids were, with a relative, and they had to get back home, so you had me take their vehicle and them to Oshkosh to the Honda dealership, and they got them sorted, like, right on time for them to get out of town for Thanksgiving, like, and
Yes.
that was one of
Yep.
those instances where you went above and beyond because for one, it was after business hours. It was in a town, like, you can only coordinate so much. I mean, if it's not you didn't have to coordinate any of that really. So,
Right. Yeah, but
but
you kind of I always put myself in their shoes, right? I would want somebody to do that for me, to get me to where I got to go,
Absolutely.
That's how I am. That's how
I
I
was
am.
grateful to be a part of that, and I was happy that I spoke Spanish because had I not, I don't know how any of that would have turned out.
Right. Oh, exactly. Right. Right. You'd
Because
have to
Rodney
use the app.
got you the switch, we put the new switch in, and it still wasn't going. It still was
Yeah.
like it was like a safety kill switch thing with an
It
immobilizer.
had to be programmed.
Yep,
Had to
yep,
be programmed.
yeah.
No,
So
we've done. I can't even tell you how many tows we've done in the last 20 years. I mean, countless numbers of tows. And we had the refrigerator in the shop is just covered with thank you cards. I mean, you've seen them.
yeah,
I mean, there's thank
absolutely.
you cards up and down from people, and we appreciate that. I mean, it makes us feel good, that they actually took the time to send us a card, thanking
Or
us for
people
help.
or people ordering moose, having catered lunch
Yeah,
on
yeah,
because of you guys in the repair. They call up Ed and schedule some food for us. Like I don't know how many times
yeah.
I've seen that. Or like
Or
even
Cristiano,
tips.
they'll yeah,
The amount of people in Washira County who run into a vehicle situation, and then obviously they're going to incur a tow bill and some sort of repair, fee down the line as well. But yet they still throw you a $20 bill for helping them in a cold situation. Like,
sure,
could not imagine how many people would be that helpful, like in that regard. Like, if I'm in a situation like that, I don't have extra money. I'm not just going to hand extra money away. I'm already, up
right,
shit's creek per se.
right,
So,
right, right. But people, you know, at the end of the day, they appreciate it.
yeah. You have a
And the
great
tribal
community that you're working with, so
Oh, so lucky to be in a community that's everybody's friendly, right? I mean, very seldom do you get you know somebody that's not. And we're lucky. We're like I said, we don't know what Chicago is, right? We just don't know
thank
that.
God.
No, I mean you don't. You take it for granted because
100%.
you've never been in them spots, so you don't know it, right? Doesn't exist in my world, or a lot of people that live in
Watoma's
our
a
community.
beautiful town.
Yeah,
Beautiful
it's
town.
got Don always says that
Still is.
it's got everything you need, just enough stuff that you need.
Another meat market would be nice.
Well, yeah, maybe that's coming.
Ed says it is.
Yes, that's good. So, little back history here. So, when I bought my 40 acres, next door was 10 acres, and there was a guy, there's just a little cabin on there. I think it had to be '01, '02. Don't quote me exactly then, but my brother, Kenny, my oldest, well, he's my only brother, he's the oldest in the family. He ended up buying that cabin back then. And kind of funny, he buys the cabin and then he had it and then he retired at 55. And then he ended up getting a place on the Upper Mill Pond, right off sea.
Yep. Yep.
Well, he ended up buying a place there, and then at that time my mom already moved up here, and then he moved up here. And then he was on the lake and just kind of going through this here. So I started the auto repair. Then I got into the towing. Well, kind of another funny story is back about God, it had to be about, let's see here. I get my time. Well, 2011, 2010,
Okay.
2011. Randy calls me up, Rademacher, because the Upper Mill Pond, they did their own weed harvesting. They'd cut the weeds on the lake. And he called me up. He said, Johnny, 2 days ago, the wind caught the weed harvester. It's upside down on the lake in the mill pond. And he said, do you think you could flip it upright so they can get it out of there? And I said, well, I don't see why I can't. So I went there and we ended up backing down to a shoreline. And I think we ran 150, 200 feet of cable out. So I rolled this thing over in the lake, right? So it was the pontoons were up. I roll it over, and that's all they wanted me to do. So I rolled it over, got that done, and I left. 4 or 5 days later, I don't know, maybe a week or so, I get
Happened
they
again.
tried they took power boats out there. They couldn't all the cutting heads and everything were down, so they were stuck in the water. It was like a big anchor. You know
Right,
what I
right.
mean?
Just holding it down.
Oh, they couldn't move it. No matter what they tried, they couldn't move it. So they had it insured, and the insurance company calls and they said, "Hey, if we give you the machine for salvage, would you be interested in
Extracting it.
yeah, getting it out of the lake?" Oh, they said nobody will touch it. No, he said we made calls, nobody will touch it. And I started thinking, I thought, man, there's a lot of hydraulic cylinders on there, rams. I thought, yeah, I'll do that. So Emily was probably about 10 years old then or so, 9 or 10. So nobody can get this thing out of the lake. So after work, it was like 6 o'clock. I go over there to the lake and I took a boat out to it and I took new oil. I took engine oil out there. So I drained it in a bucket, caught all the oil because it was right side up now. And I pulled glow plugs out of the motor and I put the new oil and pulled the glow plugs, but I was able to spin it over I took a new battery. I was able to spin it over with the battery. And with spinning the motor over, I was able to run the hydraulics, right? Because the motor
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So it sprayed all the water out of the motor, out of the glow plugs, and it would turn over, and I'd raise the hydraulics all up. And I believe that my brother had a little it was you ever see one of them little pontoon boats that run off batteries? Just an electric pontoon boat.
Yep,
They're real
yep.
small. They got like 4 deep cycles. So he comes over and he hooks up, and I mean, he literally with that little boat pulled me over to the landing. I brought the trailer down, loaded it up, and got it out of there. And I bet you we weren't there an hour. We had that out of the water.
Wow.
And this thing the machine this was 11, but the machine was an '07. So it wasn't that many years old, right? And I think
Okay.
they just paid like 60 or 70,000 for this machine. So I got it home or I got to the shop and I'm looking at it and I got it running and I thought, well, I'll just start it. So I got it running and it missed on the center cylinder missed. It was a 3-cylinder Kubota on it. So I talked to Dawn. I said, "Hey," I said, "just a question." I said, we could probably, fix this all up, and I'm sure we could get 30, 40 grand for this thing, 35,000 because it's pretty new, and we could probably sell it." I said, what do you think? We just start another business and just get into lake weed harvesting. I said, I know absolutely nothing about it. I said, but when something like this offers itself and you can get into a business for pennies on the dollar, I said, let's just say we do it for 3 or 4 years and then just sell it, right? I mean,
Right.
make a little more money and then sell the machine. And I said, what would work nice is because I got towing guys at this point in the summer that towing's slow, right? Compared to winter. But I said, I could take a tow guy and throw him in a weed harvester and he can work out through the summer cutting weeds. So I pulled the motor apart. It had one bend connecting rod. I went
Okay.
up to Service Motors. It was $123. I got a rod, I got a head gasket, I put it back together. And to this day, we're still cutting lake weeds. And that was like 2011 or 2011. So we've been cutting weeds that many. And
Wow.
now, I mean, and our schedule's full. I
15
mean,
years.
yeah, we're full from, it's like a 12 to 14 week deal, right? I mean, you got to wait for the
Right.
weeds to grow and then you know lakes.
Yep.
And, but yeah, as soon as they're done cutting, they schedule for the next year. So, I mean, every year we're booked, for the whole summer. I mean, talk about not knowing anything about it and learning about it and then, pursuing it. But I mean,
Right.
I don't care if it's cutting lake weeds or towing a car or working on a car. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, if you can figure it out or have a mind to figure it out, you can make it work. I do you think I ever thought I'd have a lake weed harvesting business in my life? I didn't even know what one was until I rolled it
Right.
over that day. You know what I mean? But
I
I
didn't
did
know
learn
what
a
a
lot.
lake weed harvester was until I started working for you. And you're like, yeah, I got a fun one for you. You like to fish, right? Head over to Lake Alpine at like 8 o'clock in the morning. You're gonna meet up with Ryan.
Yep. So yeah, yeah, you like the fish.
Yeah. You're
But
like, I
no,
got one for you.
yeah, just like I said, it's just one of them. It was an opportunity that I just wanted to grab. I mean, let's back that up too. It was an opportunity, and you don't know how it's going to turn out, right? But with a little luck and a little determination, it worked out. It worked out fine. It's a nice summer. It's a nice summer job. As far as that goes for
Yeah,
somebody,
it's
and
pretty awesome.
yeah, and it's good revenue. So I mean, why wouldn't you take it, right? Because that's how that stuff snowballs. So
And I'm
that's
a
about.
fisherman. I'm a fisherman, so I appreciate weed harvesters. You know,
Well, yeah. So you can get through.
I don't lose as much of my lures. I don't get snagged on stuff.
Right, right, right. But yeah, exactly. So now we're getting into about 2012 here, and then at that time, Brian had come to work for me.
Okay. Shout out Brian
So
Johnson.
yeah, yep, yep. He came to work for me in 2012, right around there, and he was there a couple of years, and he left a year, then he came back, and now he's been with me ever since. So around 2012, my mom was still at the shop, and just got a story for you here. People down on their luck. It's kind of a heartfelt story a little bit. It was a Friday in July, and it was probably about 3 in the afternoon. And I know my wife, she went up north with the kids to the campground, so I was still working, and that's why I don't remember it was Friday. And my mom was in the office, and then there was another gal just sitting in the chairs, right? So that desk is pretty tall, or the counter's tall. So this girl walks in, she's crying, she's got a red sweater on, and she comes in and she's crying, something's wrong with her car. And so my mom gets Brian, says, Brian, can you help her? So she said, well, just wait out by your car, Brian, I'll go out there. So Brian goes out there, and then here the girl, she had a sweater on, but she had no pants on, no nothing. There was nothing. She had no nothing. She's standing up by the
Hardship.
car, and then Brian comes by me and he said, "John," he said, "we got a problem. I was working in the shop." And he goes, "What, Brian?" He says, "A girl out there with no pants on." I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "What, she wear a skirt? No shorts? No." I said, she's not on." So I kind of leaned around the pole around the hoist. And I said, "Oh my God, Brian, she had no pants on." He goes, "What do you want me to do?" I said, "Well, just put her back in her car. Well, something's wrong here." I said, "I'll be right over." So I put her back in the car, and then I went over there and I talked to her, and she's crying, and she's got two kids in the back. One's probably a year old, one's probably maybe 2 years old, something like that. And she was coming from Fond du Lac. She only had 8 miles to go, and she blew a transmission cooler line, so she was running out of tranny fluid. And she stopped at CarQuest. CarQuest told her to run over here by me quick, and so I told her, I said, "Well, here, I put some fluid." I said, "Just drive it on the drive-on rack. Just please stay in the car with your kids." And so I took it up there. I brought it down. I looked at it. I said, we got to replace that one line. It's bad. I said, "You're looking at $50. Yeah, I'll put a new line in there. I'll fill it up with oil, get you on your way." And she said, "Well," and she's kind of crying. She says to me, she goes, "Oh, well, I can give you a check." She goes, "But it's going to bounce. But I'll give you the check to hold." And she said, I'll come back on Monday and I'll pay the bill." And at that point, I didn't care if she ever came back. I mean, to pay the bill, that wasn't the point. We got to get her going here. So we put it up in the air, and I don't know if it was Brian or whoever. They started working on the line, and took about an hour. And I walk in the office, and that other lady's in the office talking to my mom, because my mom didn't know. She didn't know, because the counter size, she couldn't see that, right? She didn't know. So the lady in the office says, "Well, you got to call the police or social service," because she could hear the kids crying. She said, "Something's wrong there." And I told the lady, I said, "Absolutely not." I said, something went real wrong. She had to leave in a hurry from wherever she came from. And I said, "I know for a fact she's 8 miles from where she's got to go." And I said, "Sometimes we don't need to get all these people involved." I
Right.
said, she needs to get to her safe place. And if that's her house or parent, I don't know where it was going, but I knew she had 8 miles to go from where she was.
Right. She made that part clear.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and so we got her fixed up. She went on her way. The other lady just dropped the whole thing when I said that. And surprisingly, on Monday morning, she was right there back Monday morning with the $50 and pants on. And she said that she had to leave a very abusive relationship down by Fond du Lac somewhere. And she said, we had minutes to get out of there. And she thanked me. She said, "Thank you for doing this." She gave me a $50 bill. You don't always have to get all these people involved. Some people can figure out some of their problems on their own, right? Because I mean, she already had a bad day. Could you imagine getting that mess going yet? Oh my
Right.
God, where would that ever end? The kids were fine. She came back. Everything was wonderful, and she thanked me, and she was back where she had to be. And, it's stuff like that. I mean, I shouldn't say I run into stuff like that every day, but I mean, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying, right? Where people
Yeah. Real
they
life
just
situations, real life problems.
real life problems. They just want a little help, right? They just need a little help. And so hopefully, after that, I mean, I think she hopefully had a good life and everything was fine, and go from there. But I mean, I just couldn't imagine getting anybody more involved in that mess. I mean, could you, how it is.
Right.
The more you mix in there, the harder it is to get it unwound,
100%.
Yeah. So I
And
mean, that's,
even in situations when people can't help, okay, then don't make the problem worse then. If you can't help, but don't make the problem worse then. Or,
yeah.
give them a little bit of guidance. Maybe you can give them some verbal, just be kind to them, just kind of teach them up a little bit, like, positive, some positive reinforcement. If you can't help, then guide them in some way, but
Yeah.
don't make it worse. Whatever you do, don't make it worse.
And honestly, you gotta believe in faith a little bit. I mean, why was she there? Why did she end up by me? You know what I mean? There's reasons, I mean, more than you'll ever figure out. And you just gotta take that and go with it, right? Oh,
All right, everyone, give us a quick moment here. We're going to pause here for a quick commercial break from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. If your business needs a fresh, professional look, What the Snark and Wild Rose has you covered. They specialize in custom branding, from apparel and drinkware to sharp decals for your vehicle, equipment, and even storefront. If you need help with marketing, social media, or creative ideas for your business, they can assist with that as well. They're all about elevating your brand and helping you present your business with confidence and the gear to match. Whether you're starting out, refreshing your image, or just want some custom apparel for your team, stop down on Main Street in Wild Rose and let them help bring your ideas to life.
yep.
All right, folks, thanks for tuning back in. I hope you enjoyed that brief commercial break from our sponsor. And John Wenninger, back to you.
Okay. So now we're gonna jump up a little bit out of 12 up, kind of get a little closer to 2015. So back then when I got into towing, I started doing a little bit of work for insurance, like in companies like auto auctions and stuff, and we would kind of like subcontract. We'd haul cars for them when they got like they called it cat status. So basically, if they got a disaster, they would call us in, and we'd just help them out when they needed a little help. But then around 24, 20, well, actually, I got to back up a little bit here. It's got to be right around 14. Before I did that, I got to get my dates right here.
That's
But
okay.
anyways, Brian was there yet, and we started transport, doing the cat towing, and Brian actually went and took a different job there for a while down by Oak Creek, and then I actually I hired my brother-in-law, Brandon, and that had to be right around 2015. He lived up in Gillette, but he ended up coming down. But they actually moved to Watoma then for this
Okay.
job, and he kind of was a jack of all trades. I mean, he ran the shop, he could run the shop, the towing, and then we talked about getting into transport at that time, and an opportunity came up that down by IAA wanted somebody to take the whole portage operation over. So basically, every car that went into portage, I hauled every single vehicle in. So that was kind of the deal. So Brandon was there and I was there, and we kind of kicked the numbers around, right? And we're kicking numbers around, and it's like I said, back to like farming, you can have the best fertilizer and the best seed, but if it don't rain, I mean, this is for me is a gamble because I need to buy 5, 6 trucks to pull this off just to
Right.
start. And I'm not, the numbers look like it would work just fine if you had to work. So believe it or not, I flipped the quarter 3 times. Best out of 3 heads, I was going to do it. And if it was tails, I wasn't. I'm not kidding you because it was just,
Three
you don't know.
times.
3
I believe you
times.
when you say this. I believe you when you say this.
And I got if all 3 times weren't heads. I mean, it
No
was,
kidding.
yeah.
That
So
was
I
fate.
flipped. Yeah, I flipped it and I said, well, I guess we're going to give it a go. And, at that time I went, they said we could do it with 2 to 3 trucks. So I did the math on the cars. It was like 6,000 cars a year would be hauling in. And I knew we were going to need at least 5 to 6. So I go to the bank and I tell them I need to borrow some money. I got to buy some trucks, not knowing how this was going to go. Right. I mean, I bought junk. I mean, the trucks I bought when I started, them 5 trucks, they were 20,000 a piece. A new truck is 150 back then, 140.
Right.
And we bought them all over the country. I mean, because we had like 2 weeks before this contract dropped, and I had people flying all over the country bringing back these trucks and these 4-car carriers, and they were all old 1, 2 internationals. I think we had an '08 Kenworth was the newest in the fleet. Then we had an '05 back then Kenworth, and got them all back. We had everything ready to go, and it went off without a hitch, believe it or not. I mean, now these trucks start another business now, right? I mean, here's the next business now. So we got this going, and run the trucks all day, and we're putting 3, 4, 500 miles on these trucks a day. I mean, and they're pretty used up when I got them. So they'd come back at night and we'd work till midnight getting them back on the road for the next day. And I mean, we did this for a couple of years, right? Until then you could kind of see where the business was going, or the profit. If there was any profit, if there was going to be profit, you knew where it was, and you could kind of figure out where you're going from then. So we kind of made it through. And in 2017, I ended up buying my first brand new 4-car. It was a 2017 Freightliner, brand new from Zips. And I'll
Nice.
tell you what, I bought that in 17, and then I ended up having, long story short again, but I had 5 of them other trucks, and I had another one, so I had 6, and it was all run under auto repair at the time. And the
Okay.
problem is I was getting too many vehicles to insure on auto repair, so I had to separate my companies.
Okay.
I had to separate
Split
transport.
entities.
Yep, transport had to be its own deal because of liabilities and, more learning, right? So I ended up we separated the companies. Well, then when you separate a company and start over, the insurance companies look like you're new, right?
Right. So then they jack up the rates.
Yeah. So I ended up having to go with Progressive that time, and for somebody, to get going because that's the only place I can get insurance because it's a new company. At my other company where I do my towing, they do towing, not transport. It's two different worlds.
Right.
One's hauling, one's auto repair towing. So got going and I had I had this insurance for about 6 months, right? And I already spent up to 6 months. I already spent about 250,000 125,000 in insurance in 6 months. Looking like it was going to be $250,000 for insurance for 1 year. And that April, I went down to Florida to the tow show, and then they got all kinds of vendors down there. And I went through, and my whole goal, I went down there in hopes of finding an insurance company. And I went down there and I started going through the vendors, and there's probably 10 insurance companies, and I talked to a bunch, but then I got to Austin Insurance. And as I'm talking to him, this guy's writing everything down. He's got a gal on the phone with my secretary at the exact same time getting information. Now they're out of Kentucky, and when the show was done, a week later, he was in Watoma to talk to me about insurance from Kentucky.
So he's a
And
businessman. He's about it.
well, it saved me because his insurance for the year was 34,000 back then. I was looking at having a $250,000 insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane back then. You know what I mean? To
Right.
try to, you know what I mean? Them numbers were never in the equation at that point. So then in 17, I bought my new truck and I got my new insurance now. And then in 2018, I bought 2 new trucks. 18, I bought 2 new trucks. And then 21, I bought a new truck. So I bought a lot of new equipment in a row there. I mean, I'll tell you what, I don't want to say there were some sleepless nights. Man, that's a lot. It's a lot of equipment, a lot of new equipment there. But what I learned about the new equipment was you didn't have your breakdowns, right? I mean,
Right.
these things were newer. The drivers were happier. They had good air conditioning. They drove good. They were new, right? They're brand new. And it made it.
Proficiencies.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Instead of towing one back every day, you didn't tow one back unless it got stuck or something. You know what I mean? And it was amazing because when you ran them older trucks, if there was a light out, like a tail light, you got pulled over. It went on your rating for your insurance. And them
Right.
old trucks, it was always something. So finally we ended up going to newer equipment, and that solved a lot of our problems. I'll tell you that. As
Right.
far as you know,
Got to spend money to make money sometimes.
yes. At that point, Brandon ran the transport, and he did a wonderful job with it. I mean, he was basically in charge of it at that point. What we sold people was we never failed. I mean, if they, you get a 24-hour window to pick up a car, right? And it's got to be picked up in that window, or you get a late, and they get a late. Then the insurance companies get a late. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's a big
Everyone's not
circle.
happy. Nobody's
No,
happy at that point.
it's a big circle, right? I mean, because then if American Family sees that IA got a lead, now all of a sudden they might go somewhere else, right? So, but one thing that we 100% to this day focus on is getting the job done, no matter what. There's no ands, ifs, or buts, and I honestly think in Wisconsin we're one of the biggest transport companies right now out there, and it's because of that. I mean, if we lose a truck in Milwaukee, as soon as that guy makes a call, there's another one on a record heading down there to finish. He's going to finish his job that day, no matter
Right.
what. You can't fail, right? I mean, that's what I'm selling. I'm selling quality. I'm selling, a service, and that's what
Dependability.
Brandon. Yeah, and that's what Brandon said. We got to sell them on, that no matter what happens. What year was that flood in Madison? Do you remember that? Was that around 17,
I
18?
only remember Fond du Lac flooding. I don't remember when Madison flooded.
19, 18, 19. Brian and I figured it out the other day. But anyways, Madison flooded, right? And Portage IA that was our deal. It was all of Madison. And when that flooded that time, all them underground garages filled up with water.
Oh,
And there's cars floating in them garages. We took 2 motorhomes down there and parked them right in IA's lot. We lived in the motorhomes. Brandon lived down there for about a month and a half. And we basically ran I got every sub driver I could find, and we ran around the clock for like a month and a half. And never once did they have to get a cat tower to come in. And they had trucks there to help us. Never. It was the point that we
but it
said
was
we
your
did.
operation.
Yeah. And then on the way down, we couldn't get in these parking garages. So I stopped in Endeavor. A guy had that old Chevy record, the Wasp. An old Chevy, was it like an 81, 82, something like that, just an old wrecker. But it was short enough and 4-wheel drive, and it was low enough that I could get in the parking garages. So I bought that on the way. As I bought it, I drove right to Madison. I started pulling cars out of garages. We'd pull them out, and we'd park them out in the parking lot.
You
and
even
then
got that
get
thing
them all.
registered yet, and you're already pulling cars with it?
Oh yeah. Well, I just registered online. But yeah, that thing, no, we went down it. We never towed nothing with it. All we did was we cleaned these
Pull.
garages out. What we would do is we'd pull them out and we'd line these cars up in a parking lot. And then they'd run 3 trucks. Brandon would load them. And as the guy came in, he just kept jumping in trucks, right? He'd jump in a full one and go. Brandon would load another one. We just kept pulling them out. We just kept pulling them out and kept loading
That's
them. And
efficiency right there.
man, I tell you
Nobody was
what,
waiting. Nobody was ever waiting. It was constantly go, go, go.
oh, no, and that's one thing about Brandon. I mean, he's efficient when it comes to that stuff. I mean, he puts a plan together and he runs with it. I mean, and he does a wonderful job. I mean, he built a lot of that transport company, himself because I gave him the reins and said, let's do this. And, we both worked at it, but I mean, he pretty much took the reins on that and did a good job too. And like I said, we're one of the biggest in the state now. And I like transport. It's a day-to-day deal now. Obviously, now Brandon, he kind of moved on his own now with a car lot and in the auto repair and he's into Teslas and stuff and Amaro now. Good for him. I mean, he came up to me, he said, John, he said, I don't want to do this, but he said, I see your success. And he said, I'd like to have some of that too. And I get it, right? 100%. He's smart enough to do it. So yeah, but
And
then,
it's all about opportunity too, right? So you have your will,
oh,
you have your what you're willing to do, what you want to do, and then
yep,
the opportunity presents itself. And then it's a matter of, are you going to take it? Are you gonna go with it?
that's when that little, that car lot in Amaro came up for sale there, that or release or
It was
whatever it
Turnkey
was. And
Auto back in the day is what it was called, I believe. I thought it was
uh,
Turnkey.
nope, nope,
Maybe
it
that's up
was.
the road a little bit. What was that
Yes,
one
it's up
called?
there.
Park
Everybody knew the
Place?
name of it. Park Place. Park Place.
Park
You're right.
Place.
I mean, at one point, I think they had 100 cars on that lot when it was Park Place. You couldn't even.
Yeah, wow.
I don't even know how you could get a car out to go drive one. But I mean, that came up, and then I suppose his wheels started turning, and and honestly too, for him, that was a pretty good leap for him too, right? I mean, there had to be some, like you said, there's no option to fail, but everything's got to fall in the right place, right? The
Right.
economy, selling cars. I mean, there's still got to be a little bit of luck in it too, and knowledge. But I mean, good for him. He does a good job, and honestly, we once in a while we get if I'm gone and we get a heavy wreck and need a guy, I just give him a call because he lives in Watomia, and he'll jump right in a heavy wrecker and take off and
Right.
still help me out, and if he needs help, I'll help him out. So I mean, a good relationship there. There's plenty of work for everybody, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
No doubt about that. So yeah, so good for him. I mean, he's doing a real good job over there, and I think he just got another place too. He bought that old golf cart place shop. You know where I'm
In
talking, right
Watoma?
in Emerald. What's that?
Oh, in Amro?
Yeah, where they were selling and fixing them golf carts right next to across like kitty
Oh,
corner.
yeah,
It's like
yeah, yeah. Across from Quick Trip, across from the bowling alley
yep,
on this side, there's little golf carts. So it's
yeah,
right next to the gas station and Subway
yep.
to the left
Condon
of
owned
that.
that.
Okay.
He ended up buying that. And now he's
A lube
I
shop.
think that's I think he fixes Teslas there now.
Oh, no
He'll
kidding.
yeah, that's a Tesla shop, more or less, because he's got the other
Right.
garage across the road too. But yeah, so that'll work out good for him.
Wow. So he's expanding his operations in the first 5 years or so of having it, or
Oh
roughly.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
awesome.
But I mean, if you go back to looking like we're after the first 5 years I was in business, right? And then I started with the building, and I started towing. I mean, to this day, it's never stopped. It's like once that ball's rolling down the hill, you just
It's
keep it
momentum.
rolling. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, momentum, exactly right. And fortunate enough that the ideas and the coin flips I did worked out, right?
But then it comes down to a little bit of that luck though too, because you got to hire the right people in the right places, right? You can hire the right people, but they might not be for the right place in the company, right? So then you got to kind of move people around a little bit to get
And you
proficiencies.
and Yep, as you know, we've done that. We might take somebody out of, one thing and put them in another, and they thrive in one area versus the
Right,
other.
right,
And so move them where you need them, right? So
100%.
so right about that same time we got transport going, for some reason, we decided we needed a car lot for some reason. So that was another deal.
Well, if you got
So
insurance vehicles and you get them cheap enough,
well, yeah.
a little bit of wiggle room. You got to work for it though. It's not like it's free money. You still got to work for
No,
it.
no, no. It just you keep adding to the plate, right? And so we got that. I ended up buying that Scoops Corner store years ago, and Brandon got that the car sales because he came from up north. He worked at a place that did auto and car sales, so he was really versed on how that all worked, the car sales part of it. So then we did that. We got cars, and got everything set up and started selling cars there, which works good. And then you kind of went through COVID and prices got a little, little nuts on cars. And, as far as now, if we get some decent deals that we can pass along, we'll put cars on the lot and sell them, which is fine. But as far as that being our main forte, it's not. You know what I mean? It's more
Right.
of you buy a car from a customer, you put it out there. We just bought a couple this week, Brian said, from a customers, and them are on the lot. We do more local stuff because it seems like every time lately you go to an auction and there's always
You don't know
something
what you get.
wrong. Well, the problem is every car out there now has bad cams, bad trannies.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying, right? And if they were any good, they would be on the guy's lot because their cars are hard to find right now. So I
Right.
mean, so whatever you're buying, just figure you're going to have to. There's something, a broken
A
headlight,
mystery headache, and you don't even know what it is that you're scratching your head about.
not at all. You buy a car that runs and drives perfect, and you open the hood and then find out that it hit a deer and then the tabs are broke on the headlight, right? Well, that headlight's $2,500 now on some of these cars.
Right.
So
And some
any
of these
little,
newer ones, they're back ordered for parts
yep. So
because of COVID and stuff.
any little bit of money you would have made on this car after putting a $2,500 headlight, because I won't sell it broke, right? I'm gonna fix it. If it's a loss or a plot, whatever, take the good with the bad on some of them. But I mean, it's I've had a lot more luck buying them from my customers because first of all, we service the vehicles,
Right.
and they're usually selling them because they just don't need two cars anymore, or maybe they bought
Right.
a new one and this was a second car and they don't want it. And I've had so much luck buying them from customers than I ever did at an auction. Once in a while you get lucky at an auction where somebody comes up on paper and they got to get rid of it, right? But just
You don't ever know how it was maintained or handled, before that. Yeah, you
no.
get some documents and you get some paperwork, but how much of that is actually accurate or legit or, you know,
And I'm not the guy either that'll sell a car at 27% interest just to sell a
right,
car, right? I've already told people when they come in, they want to buy something, and I just look at their deal and I said, this ain't for you, right? This is not
right,
for you. You don't you don't need a $15,000 car. You need a $5,000 car. And once you
right,
get that paid off, then you can jump up to a $10,000. But to give
right.
you the financing on this $15,000 car, you're
It's gonna
you're
put
just
you in
going
the
to end up
hole,
losing. You're going to lose it
struggle.
anyways. It's
Yep.
just a matter. It's not going to work out. You can already tell it's not going to work. And and I'll be honest with people like that. I just tell them, this ain't going to work. And I don't. Some people will sell you that car regardless because they want the sale, right? Doesn't matter if they lose it or if they got 27% interest or whatever it may be. But I still gotta sleep at night. You know what I mean? And I gotta see these people. Most people that buy cars from me are locals, right? I probably sold just as many to my customers as I bought from them. One customer
It's good.
sells it and another customer picks it up.
That's a good, thing to weigh out for sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah, and you give them a good product. I mean, or you give them a good product for a vehicle. That spreads better than you know what I mean. We don't we advertise on the bug a little bit just because it's a local radio station, and I try to keep up with you know what I mean. I want to give back to them too. But as
Right.
far as that's the only other advertising I do is when something. So when you're a business, things are going to happen, and you take care of it, right? And you make it right. If it costs you some money, it costs you some money. But that's my idea of advertising, right? You take care of the customer. That guy's going to tell 50 people how you took care of him. It was a problem, but he solved the problem. No, no questions asked. And I think
Right.
we talked about that before too. And it's all how you take care of people at the end of the day. Is
And
what
and in
what
small
built the business.
towns, word of mouth is very big. It still carries weight. Maybe not so much in like the financial credit aspect of like, well, so and so's this person's kids, so they're good for it. That stuff doesn't go anymore. But I mean, in the small towns, if someone says like, "Hey, I recommend that place of business because they treated me right," that sticks. That doesn't just easily get forgotten about. People remember good deeds.
Yeah, like I said, we get customers that come in, like Michelle said, we just had one last week that nobody could. She was coming through for the holidays, her battery went out. No, nobody would help her, and she called us. We ran over, got it. I don't know if that was Christmas Eve or whatever it was. Brought her back, got a battery in her, got everything set up, and she was so happy that somebody was actually going above and beyond to help. You know what I mean? And we're fortunate that way because we got. Right now, I think we have 4, 5, 6, 7. We have seven mechanics and probably two that tow and are mechanics, right? So I mean, we have the luxury to pull somebody to put a battery in or fix their
Right.
tire or whatever we need to do, right, to get them going. we have that luxury. There's a lot of, I really can't complain because we got a really good crew right now. An excellent crew, actually. You know, they're very knowledgeable. You add all them years, like I said, one guy can't figure something out. The other guy probably did already see it or somebody's seen it and they can go through stuff pretty quick, which is good. No, so lucky that way.
Absolutely.
You know, during COVID, it was hard to get employees. You know, they just, I don't know if they were just getting paid not to work. You know what I mean? How that whole deal went. They were getting $900 to stay at home. Who the hell's going to go to work?
That was
And
frustrating me so bad.
that was a tough stretch. I mean, you know, 2023, 24, whenever that ended, because I had hardly no applications. Now the last year or so, we actually have applications on file, which is amazing. You know, so people are, I think their money was running out, and then they had to, you know, get back into something. And
Yeah, I
that
think
was
at the time when COVID hit, I was at Milk Specialties and I was working overtime, and there were so many people that they refused to come to work, right? Or whatever. They just
yeah,
because of
yeah.
COVID. They were getting paid more than what I was making as a production lead. And they were technically beneath me in the company, but yet they were getting more in a paycheck for doing nothing at all. I was livid. I was like, it made no sense. The government was creating lazy people intentionally.
Oh, 100%. That's what they did. And until that money completely 100% dried up, they weren't looking for a job. Why would they, right? You know, like I said, I worked them 3 years. I worked a lot of hours because you just couldn't find enough help y- to do everything. So if I had to jump in a truck that day, if I had to get on a rack and work on cars, if I had to, whatever it took, right? Whatever it takes, you just got to get it done.
I
So
remember
yeah,
getting COVID the one time and I couldn't even get out of my bed. It was bad. And I'm not the kind of guy that just, I mean, there's some rough days, I mean, obviously back when I worked for you, I lived next door to a bar, so I would go to the bar after work. There were some mornings I woke up and I was in rough shape. That's just kind of nature of the beast, I guess, of living out there. But yeah, I mean, yeah. Yeah, here I am now, like 800 something odd days without alcohol and nicotine. I went cold turkey and quit both like 2.5 years ago. I'm
really
on a
good for
sober
you.
I'm on a sobriety kick. This is the most healthiest I've ever been. I mean, I'm still
Yeah.
fluffy.
Yeah. But I remember when you get them heart palpitations and stuff, and it was
Face was
just,
like on beet red. Yeah, I was
yeah,
smashing.
yeah,
I was always 5 Red Bulls deep into the day
yeah,
just to
nothing,
try to keep
nothing good.
going.
Yeah, nothing good there. That's
No.
for sure.
No more blood pressure meds, no more medications. I'm
Ain't that,
100% medication
ain't that
free.
amazing? Just take care of yourself a little bit, how that works.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to cut a lot of people off too though. Yeah.
Well,
I had to walk
I
away from
get it.
situations and stuff, put
Well,
myself
you know,
first.
the people you surround yourself with are,
They definitely makes an impact on you 100%.
yeah,
And you got
yep.
a great team now. So I mean that's awesome that you guys are making the impacts that you guys are making. So now this puts our story at 2016, 2017, or where are you at now?
About 2015, 2016. Yep.
Right. Because I know
So,
we're getting into the COVID stuff, but like I mean we're kind of
yep,
bouncing around here a little bit.
yep,
But
yep, yep. And I'm gonna have to meet some people here pretty quick, so we're gonna have to probably cut it
yeah,
off in a little bit here, and then we'll just probably catch up on this next week again.
yeah, absolutely. We're at about an hour and 20 minutes here. So, if you have any like final last thoughts you can think of to finish up this one, and then we can get back together next week and finish up on episode number 3.
Well, I'm gonna put some more stuff together for next week. I think we're gonna leave it at this, and yeah, I think that'll next week should get us probably up to 2025 here. So,
Awesome.
all right. Well, hey, thanks for everything, and
Yeah, absolutely.
good luck with your fishing tomorrow.
Thanks. A happy new year, everyone. Thanks for tuning into the Freeman Focus. This was part 2 with in the beginning with John Wenninger, and stay tuned. This will be released tonight, and we'll be back next week with another episode. Take care, everyone.